Oh, thank you, Katrina, and thank you, band. Yeah. I think on January, the first Sunday in January, somebody just remember that, we ought to have a birthday party for Katrina. It's not her birthday, but it'll be her 12th year of singing in this church every other week. Aren't we blessed? Okay. Huh? Would you object to that? Okay, all right, good. You have to stay after church. Okay, all right, good. Well, I didn't tell it. I told it first service, and people laugh, so I'll tell you this joke that has nothing to do with the message, but that's okay. She's already laughing. These two guys were in a bar, and they were discussing God. And so one guy said, well, you know what? God's white. And the other guy said, no, God's black. And he said, no, I'm pretty sure God's white because that's what I was taught. The other guy said, well, I was taught God was black, so I think it's black. And they talked about it, in general terms. They didn't get angry with each other or anything like that. And so one of them said, well, I guess when we meet St. Peter that we'll find out. And they said, yeah. They got in a car together, drove down the highway a little while, and they were in an accident, and they met St. Peter much sooner than they thought. So they go up to St. Peter and they said, we've got a question. What is it? Is God black or white? Peter said, well, here comes God right now. God walked up and looked at him and said, Buenos dias, senor. Oh, goodness. This is a story to illustrate. This is not a comedy, okay? Not that one, this one. We talk about this idea of expecting abundance. And yet, so many times we expect lack. And I think it's because we don't understand the power of source at times. We just can't believe it. There was a couple who lived out in the country, a number of years back, obviously, as I tell the story, and they moved to the city. There were two things that they got in their house in the city they'd never had before. One was indoor plumbing. They were pretty excited about that. The second was electricity. And so they got their electricity, and that electricity, when they moved in the house, had 8-watt bulbs in it. And that's what they thought they were supposed to have. So they went to the hardware store one day, and they said, we've got electricity. We're really proud of it. And the guy said, well, what size light bulb do you have? And they said, well, we got 8-watt light bulbs. And the guy said, why don't you move up to 60-watt or 150-watt? And he said, well, how much would it cost to change our electrical system to do that? And the guy said, it wouldn't cost you anything. Well, all you have to do is just screw the bulb in. And they said, are you sure of that? And the guy said, I'm positive. He said, matter of fact, I will bring a light bulb over and put it in for you, and then you can buy the light bulbs you want. So he goes over to the house, and sure enough, he puts the light bulb in, and it illuminates the whole room. And they are amazed by this. They're excited about it. And they just can't believe that that same source would be able to light up a 60-watt bulb. Well, you and I need to learn how to plug into abundance with the right wattage. Sometimes we live in an 8-watt world because we choose to, when we could be in the 60, 150, even floodlight world, because the source is the same. When we see God as source, God does not have limitation. We have limitation. Or we step into a situation where we have great confidence and we expect source to support us, and it happens. And it happens sometimes very quickly. And then other times it may not happen. And it's not because of anything you are doing wrong. I'm not implying that at all. Instead, it's because maybe in that situation you've had other experiences that tell you, here's the outcome I'm going to get. So one of the things we learn to do in order to really be abundant, to expect abundance, to live in abundance, is that we learn to change our minds so we can change our lives. Everything works from the mind. But the mind is connected to the heart. There's a heart space. Even doctors are saying now, and research is saying that the heart actually has a little brain in it. And the reason it's a little brain is because the heart is a pure conduit to mind, not the brain, mind, divine mind. And it's through your mind, divine mind, that you can connect with the heart, let the heart give direction, and then you can change your thinking. Your brain will do what it is told to do. It is not telling you what to do. It's a changing concept, maybe. That's an opportunity for growth to see that you are in charge of your brain. Your brain's not in charge of you. And as you step into that understanding, you're able again to change your mind and change your life. You know, we got the holidays coming up. And one of the things about the holidays, is, as some of you may know, is people get depressed during the holidays. They get down during the holidays. They get confused during the holidays. And they feel guilty because you're supposed to be, all excited. And you get excited and you put the lights up and then you say, oh, oops, I got the lights up, but you know what? I don't have enough money to get through the holidays. I'm not going to see my family during the holidays. Can't see them this year. My sister and I aren't speaking this Christmas. I just don't know how I am going to handle this. And I don't have enough time to do all the things I'm supposed to do during the holidays. And so we get into a lack consciousness without meaning to. And so we feel like that we have a lack of time, a lack of money, and other resources. When the truth is we have everything that we need. And more importantly, we should be thankful for, and most of you are all the time. I'm not all the time, but I am most of the time, thankful for the resources we have that we can step again into a source that's not limited by wattage. You and I can do that. And so when we move through the world with a mentality of abundance, you see, we get a tsunami, if you would, a wave of every intention fulfilled, every desire met, every need completed. Doesn't happen all at one time. It's a work in progress, but it does happen. And it depends on how you're looking at life. There's an idea of how a purpose, and this is another thing, is that in order to have prosperity, we have to have purpose. In order to have purpose, we have to demonstrate love. And so there was a fellow who owned a franchise. It was a very successful TV show, one of the first ones, of selling things on TV. Now, I know you can get lots of channels now, but he had one of the first channels. And he had lots of inventory. And it was all sitting there in front of him. And he was thinking about, I've changed my purpose in life. I got some other things I want to do, and I'm kind of tired of this. But my board says that I've got to do certain things, meet certain numbers. My inventory is sitting there in the way. I can't afford to lose money on my inventory. And I feel trapped. And so what he was doing was being trapped by what was around him rather than what was the opportunity for him. And eventually he said, the heck with it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a big sale. I'm going to close down the show, and I'm going to take 50% off of everything that I own. It never dawned on him that he had a huge inventory that at 50% off, because he'd already paid for it, he wasn't going to really lose money. He was going to bring money in. And so when they had their last sale, he sold his inventory, and he literally made millions of dollars that he didn't owe back to the business, and it freed him up to think differently, to move forward, to be in the idea of abundance because he could serve and meet the purpose that he had in life. So I would ask you, does your inventory keep you from providing purpose in your life? Does your inventory trap you sometimes? Limit you? And each of us has a different form of inventory. And so when we're willing to get rid of that inventory that's in our way, what happens is we are able again to change our mind, and then we can change our life. You know, the question sometimes is, would you rather have the feeling that things are never enough, or turn everything around and trust that universal power that is really just itching to give you strength, love, and immeasurable joy, to meet your needs as you determine them, to answer your prayers, to allow you to step in and say, I am in control, I can manifest, I can change energy because I am in control. We just live in a world that over and over again says we are in control. And what we have to do is not believe that, not buy that, but to stay in principle. That the Christ within me gives me the ability to use the law of mind action so that I can create and demonstrate all that God is in my life. And you can't do it for anybody else. You can only do it for yourself. But the nice thing is when you do it for yourself, other people will step forward. Other people will be available. Other people will say, how can I help? Because those are part of the resources that come to us when we step out in faith. There's a story called Hear the Sound of Abundance. It's in the Bible. It's in 1 Kings, the 18th chapter. And it's a story about Elijah and Ahab. You know Ahab, King Ahab? Not the sailor, the king. And anyway, the Samaritans at that time were in a great famine. It had been going on for 3.5 years. And they were struggling. People were dying. Lots of issues obviously caused by that. A force of nature. Not much they thought they could do about it. Well, Elijah came in and said to Ahab, do you hear the sound of rain? And Ahab said, you're a little nutty. What are you talking about? And Elijah said, do you hear the sound of rain? Can you do that? And Ahab said, well, there are no clouds in the skies. I don't hear any sound of rain. I don't even know what you're talking about. So Elijah let Ahab stay in his lack thinking, and he went out to Mount Carmel, and there he prayed, and he affirmed, and he meditated that the rain was coming. So after a couple of days of that, he sent a messenger out. He said, go back past the mountain and go up top of the mountain and tell me if rain is on the way. Messenger went out. First day, came back and said, nope, no clouds, no nothing. Sun, nothing but sun. Came back a second time after the second day and said, Elijah, there's no sun. There's no cloud, there's no rain, there's only sun. And this went on for 6 days. Seventh day, Elijah says, I want you to go out and see if it's going to rain. And the guy said, look, we've done this 6 days in a row, and there's nothing but sun out there. I want you to know that, but I'll go because you ordered me to go. So he goes out, gets to the mountaintop, and there he sees clouds. And within a few days, it started to rain. Now, it's not important whether this is a true story or not, whether this actually happened. But it says metaphysically that we can control what we want to happen rather than let what is happening control us. It says that you and I have the ability to bring about our good as long as we don't believe what we see and instead see what we believe. If I believe the rain's coming, if I believe there's no more famine, it will change. I cannot control the time, but it will change. And those things will disappear, and the good will flow. All of us have been through parts in our lives, I'm sure, where the good has flowed, and we've been through times when it didn't feel like it was flowing. But it still was, as far as I'm concerned. So as we look at this, what we can look at is what is our job? How do we kind of get to this point of understanding that the rain is coming? How do we get to this point where I believe that through the rain, that blossoms will begin to bloom and they will flourish? You see, we have to be like Elijah. We have to hear the rain coming. You have to hear what you want in your life coming. You have to feel it. You have to imagine it. You have to see it. You have to touch it. You have to taste it. But yet, it's out there somewhere. When really where it is right in your heart and right in your mind. And so, what are some of the necessary actions in order to accomplish the manifestation of good? Well, one is faith. Again, hear the sound of rain, even when there's no cloud in the sky. You see, your ability to think is unlimited. And so the things you can think into existence are unlimited. Think about that. Is your thinking, do you think your thinking is just limited? That you have the capacity to only think about a few things? That you have the capacity to think about nothing new? I would say that each and every one of you would believe and know that you have the ability to think outside the box, and you've done it in your lifetime. How many people have thought outside the box in their lifetime? Okay, only one person hadn't. Okay, no, I'm only kidding. Everybody has, certainly. And so we have the faith to do that. And again, that faith is understanding that we can, through the power of through the power of the law of mind action, and through the power of controlling our mind, that you and I can take what is in place, what we think's in place, and replace it with whatever we want to. And we just have to believe that through the power of mind, we can change substance, which is energy, that we can create something new. Energy is always there. Everything is created through energy. I don't care what it is. But we're managing the energy rather than let it manage us. The second thing is to love and serve. Mark Twain said, if you want love and abundance in your life, give it away. That's true. Just give it away. You can't cling on to it. Because as you start to cling to it, then it starts to limit again who and what you are. The law of circulation is an actual law, and we need to be in alignment with that in order to bring good into our lives. Wayne Dyer said, doing what you love is the cornerstone of having abundance in your life. Doing what you love. I would guess that some of you probably have a job you don't like. And it's okay. But I would suggest to you that you start to like it. That you start to see the blessings in it. That you can find something or someone you're working with or something that really is positive. And then focus on that. And as you focus on that, what will happen is a new job will come your way, if that's what you want. But if you stay in that negative frame of reference, what's going to happen is you're going to quit the job eventually because you're so tired of it. And you know what you're going to find? Another job that you will get tired of. Because you're maintaining the same style of thinking. So bless where you are in the moment. Bless the people in it, even if it's difficult. And as you bless those people, bless those things, you will begin to respond differently to the people and to the job. And then somebody's going to want to hire you because you've done such an outstanding job on that job. Try that out. Then the next thing is that we love and serve. And in loving and serving, as I said, we demonstrate that here at Unity Richmond. We have Caritas. We have our children's program. We have support for folks who are needing help. We have healing. We have prayer chaplains. We have a host of things that are ongoing at Unity Richmond. There could be more, but they are happening. So let's bless what's happening so that more will happen. And it's through love and service that we do that. You see, if you love something, you serve it. If you love somebody, you serve them. If you love somebody, you forgive them. If you love somebody, you just have understanding and compassion for them. That's unconditional love. That's the way that which created us loves and moves forward. And then the third thing, after love and service, is deficit motivation versus abundance motivation. Deficit motivation is another way of saying lack consciousness. But why does it appear? And I would think that maybe it's because of the way we're seeing the world. That if I think that God, energy, thought, is unfair to me and treats you nicer because you get what you want, it appears, or you have more money, or you have a bigger status, or you have a better education. When I start to think that, you see, that's deficit motivation. It limits my ability to move further. And so I step out of that deficit motivation, hopefully, by moving to abundance motivation. The other thing in deficit, by the way, is we feel like we've never received enough. Just didn't receive enough. God didn't do enough for me. And I'm angry about that. And so we have to step out of that, obviously, because God had nothing to do with it. God is a source that gives and gives and gives. It's a source that lights and lights and lights the way. God doesn't say, well, you know what? Unity of Richmond, I don't think you guys should do as well this month. Unity of Bon Air is going to have a better month. Doesn't work that way. Right? I mean, we all know that. So we have to let go and understand that what we're receiving is fair to us and needs and helps us in our need to grow and our need to see ourselves as that spiritual being. And then, if I feel that way, if I need to blame, if I need to see that I am not fairly treated, then what I need to do is create that abundance motivation. To create an abundance motivation. And how do we do that? I'm going to tell you next week. Because I just don't have enough time, okay? So, come back next week and find out how do we move into an abundance motivation. Maybe. Anyway, so, come on back, and here's an assignment for you this week. As we're going through these ideas of abundance, I would like for you to take some time this week. Take your note card with you, whatever you need, and write down. Take the time to do this. And just meditate for a few minutes, anytime during the day, and say, let come up in me anything that is lack consciousness. Now see, we like to pray and meditate for the positive, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with recognizing where I am so I can move out of it. Matter of fact, I'm fooling myself if I don't do that. And so if you do this every day, and you write down notes, what's going to happen, I believe, in time, maybe in a week, maybe in 2 or 3 days, some things are going to come up that you start to recognize that are limiting your abundance consciousness. That you are being motivated by lack consciousness and not by abundance consciousness. And some things will come up where you're moving perfectly, and you feel that way. And write those down too. But what you're trying to do with this exercise is start to understand what might be holding you back so you can change your mind about it. Because you have the power to do that. But you have to examine yourself. And sometimes that's not fun. This is a part of meditation that can't be fun sometimes, okay? Stuff just jumps out at you. But if you just say, I'm fine the way I am. God loves me just as I am. You can handle that exercise. So I'll see you next week. God bless. And so